What is the difference between K-pop and J-pop? How are they similar? And if you're a fan of one genre, are there similar groups in the other that might help you get into it? If you've asked yourself questions like these, then keep watching as we take a look at K-pop versus J-pop so that you can not only learn their similarities and differences, but maybe also find your next artist to stan. Let's blast off and get started. JM in your universe. Konnichiwa friends, I'm Jonathan Miller and welcome back to Jonathan Miller Music, where we help each other become better artists. Now, if you're watching this, it means I am out of town on a mental health break and, knowing me, working on the next section of my upcoming album project, which means we've gone to voiceover mode. I appreciate all of you watching while I'm off camera, and I do want to thank some of my native Japanese and Korean friends for helping me out with my research for this video. Thank you for your perspectives, insight, and thoughts. Anyway, let's just hop right into things. Korean pop music and Japanese pop music might seem similar to those who don't know better, and while they certainly have their similarities, they are in fact quite different. Western pop music, K-pop, and J-pop are essentially three branches on the same tree that is just pop music. In order to understand K-pop and J-pop, it's important to understand that just like pop music in the West, K-pop and J-pop are their own individual industries entirely, with their own target audiences, cultures, histories, genre makeup, and sonic structure. So knowing that, let's dive into their differences and similarities. History. The histories of K-pop and J-pop have a few commonalities, like being influenced by the West, tracing their roots back to traditional Japanese and Korean music respectively, but beyond that, they actually evolved quite differently into the genres we know today. I've already done an in-depth deep dive into the history of K-pop, which you can watch with the annotation on screen or the link in the description, but here's a TLDR. K-pop evolved from traditional Korean music called gugak, and after the Korean War in 1950, Korea was in a pretty impoverished state. So as a way to earn money, Korean singers began performing for American troops in South Korea. Beatlemania hit Korean shores in the 60s, which led to an interest in group performers. The 90s saw the true birth of K-pop that we know today after the 1997 Asian financial crisis, where many economies in Southern and Southeastern Asia rapidly collapsed. This led to a need for many countries to help out each other, and one way of doing so was by Korean artists performing music in multiple languages, boosting both foreign economies and the Korean economy. K-pop has now spanned 4 distinct generations of music acts that have all pushed the Korean wave into a global phenomenon, now entering the top 10 biggest music markets in the world. J-pop, however, differs by stemming from ryukoka in the late 1920s and was influenced by Western musical instruments like the violin, harmonica, and guitar. However, melodies were typically written in the Japanese pentatonic scale, which gave songs a unique sound. Following World War II, during the Allied occupation of Japan, US soldiers brought jazz, blues, and country music into Japan. Jazz would go on to be quite popular as ryukoka split into 2 separate distinctions in the more traditional enka and the more modern kaiyokyoku, the latter of which many believe to be the basis of modern J-pop. Beatlemania, Elvis, and rock and roll as a whole also crashed onto Japan's shores in the 60s. Kyu Sakamoto made history when his 1961 hit Ue o Muite Aruko, also known as Sukiyaki, went #1 in multiple countries, including the Billboard Hot 100 in the US, becoming the first Japanese song to do so. In the 70s and 80s, Japanese musicians began experimenting with electronic music like electronic rock. Yellow Magic Orchestra is even considered to be one of the pioneers of modern electropop and synthpop. Eventually, the term J-pop was officially coined in the 90s to describe all popular Japanese songs, excluding traditional enka, much in the way K-pop refers to all popular Korean styles of music. As dance-oriented music began to rule around the world in the late 90s, acts like Namie Amuro and Utada Hikaru became dominating figures in the J-pop scene. From here, J-pop morphed into the genre it is today, featuring numerous subcategories and microgenres, dominating agencies like Johnny and Associates, which is akin to K-pop's SM, JYP, and YG Entertainments. J-pop has become the second biggest music market in the world. It is a multiple billion-dollar industry, but chances are you're more familiar with K-pop as it's more of a global brand. So it's understandable how this might be surprising. So let's discuss idol and fan culture. But first, a word from this video's sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is one of the leading music distribution platforms for independent artists and separates itself by only charging one small yearly fee to distribute as much music as you want, as opposed to per-release distribution fees. Another thing that makes DistroKid pretty cool is that they provide a lot of tools and opportunities to promote your music with things like mini videos. Mini videos are short, special promo videos you can customize for social media to help spread the word about your music. You can choose from a variety of presets that best match the vibe of your track, and even personalize it. Choose your song, add a custom announcement message, your artist name and song name. You can even choose the best section of your song to highlight for the video. Then hit generate my video and DistroKid will begin processing it right away. Once it's done, hit view and it's ready to go. You can download it or share it straight from your desktop. Best of all, you can make more if you so choose, making this an invaluable tool in music promotion. Use my special VIP link to save yourself 7% on your first year's membership with DistroKid. Link is in the description. Idol and fan culture. Both K-pop and J-pop like groups, but their formation, training, performance styles, and target audiences are not the same. Beatlemania brought in interesting groups and bands in both South Korea and Japan, but in Korea, idols are essentially expected to be images of perfection. They are trained extensively for years before debuting in acting, languages, singing, dancing, modeling, and more. Idols are then chosen by their entertainment companies to debut, depending on their skill level and how well they match the new group's intended concept. This concept can range from techwear and futuristic like aespa to high school or school age like Stacy, and some groups even have more than one concept like Red Velvet, who switches between edgy and sultry to cute and elegant and summery. On the flip side, J-pop idols are expected to be images of growth and development. The more pure, the better for idols of all genders. J-pop training really depends on the agency. For example, Johnny and Associates trainees called Johnny's Jr. will sign with the agency and begin work right away as backup dancers for groups who have already debuted. They may train for only a few months before debuting because J-pop fans like watching everyday people become skilled performers, as opposed to K-pop fans who expect a high level of proficiency and synchronicity upon debuting idols. J-pop prefers star quality of a person and to debut basically as is because audiences like seeing their favorite idol rise. K-pop fans inherently know how much influence an agency has on a particular group's musicality, performance style, fashion, promo styles, and even how relationships with fans are handled. Each K-pop group's concept is an extension of the label themselves, with Blackpink's hip-hop and R&B style being an easy example for YG Entertainment, which specializes in hip-hop and R&B music. J-pop can be similar to that at times, but groups within the same overarching project can be vastly different from each other. From the Sakamichi series, for example, Nogizaka 46 features a clean and schoolgirl concept, whereas its sister group Sakurazaka 46 features a bit of a darker concept. J-pop idols tend to lead very private lives and stay out of the public eye for the most part, whereas K-pop idols, similar to the West, have to be very careful about what they say or where they go because their personal lives can become very public rather quickly. That being said, idols' relationships with their fans in both K-pop and J-pop are of the utmost importance. J-pop performances prioritize enjoyment and having fun on stage with their fans. K-pop prioritizes expertise and precision while also having fun with their fans. Where they differ the most, however, is in the music itself. Music. It's important to note that this video contains some generalizations about J-pop and K-pop, and there are always exceptions. For example, both genres favor groups, as I said before, but of course, solo acts exist. For K-pop, we've got artists like IU, BoA, Zico, Eric Nam. In J-pop, we have people like Namie Amuro, Ayumi Hamasaki, Kyari Pamyu, and Kenshi Yonezu. Remember, both K-pop and J-pop are titles for all popular music in their respective territories, meaning the term K-pop also encompasses K-hip-hop, K-R&B, K-dance, and so forth. Korea is a much smaller country than Japan, and its initial domestic market was, in the grand scheme of things, small as well. K-pop had everything to gain by expanding outside of Korea's borders, which is why K-pop is now a popular export around the globe, and one of the reasons it's gained such notoriety. Japan has a history of closing its borders to the outside world, which means as time grew on, it became more accustomed to and better equipped to create and sustain its own domestic growth. Now, its borders haven't been closed forever, of course, and that's why it's hard to overstate the sheer size of the J-pop industry, even if it may not be as widely known or popular outside of Japan. It doesn't necessarily need to adapt and grow in foreign markets in the way that K-pop really benefits from. In other words, both markets are very, very successful. This is also why J-pop encompasses many microgenres of music within Japanese popular music. You can find Western-style songs in J-pop, rock, hip-hop, electronic, Vocaloid like Hatsune Miku, contemporary R&B, bubblegum, and even Japanese versions of K-pop songs. Although, according to some of my Japanese friends and resources, sometimes K-pop, regardless of language, is still considered K-pop. It depends on the person. But that's because K-pop and J-pop, if you listen closely, don't sound the same. Modern K-pop follows a fusion of Western-style EDM, hip-hop, and pop music, as it's a unique hybrid genre of multiple styles within the same song. J-pop can change chords and keys frequently, and can utilize a higher-pitched melody that mimics traditional Japanese music. The average J-pop song is also much longer in runtime than your average K-pop or Western song. J-pop music tends to fall between the 4 to 5 minute range, and K-pop tends to fall between the 3 to 4 minute range in runtime. Truly, within K-pop and J-pop, there's something for everyone. So here are some of my recommendations if you're looking to go from one genre to another. If you like BTS, you may enjoy JO1. JO1 is a group put together by Produce 101 Japan, and their music and performance style are very similar to K-pop boy groups because of that. If you are a fan of Blackpink in K-pop, you should check out E-Girls in J-pop. E-Girls recently broke up, unfortunately, but their song Showtime is similar to Blackpink's Boombayah, so that'll probably be a good segue between the genres for you. J-pop fans, if you enjoy Arashi, you should check out Astro. Astro's got some songs that offer that R&B pop vibe that I think you may like if you enjoy Arashi. If you're a fan of Sekai no Owari, you might find SHINee enjoyable. Both groups have been popular for a long time, and they've got some real diversity in their overall sound. Finally, for my Western pop fans, some K-pop recommendations I have for you are, of course, everybody I've already mentioned in this video, but also Twice, ITZY, aespa, Taeyeon, TXT, and Hypen, BoA, and many more. If you want to give J-pop a try, you can't go wrong with the people I previously mentioned in this video as well, but also One Ok Rock, YOASOBI, AKB48, Gen Hoshino, and Niju, among others too. J-pop and K-pop have many similarities, like being influenced by group culture, growing exponentially into vast industries, and certain aspects of their training. But they are also very different. Both K-pop and J-pop are massively popular genres encompassing many microgenres and have become some of the world's top grossing music markets and deserve their flowers and recognition for it. So whether you like one or the other, or both, give this video a like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments some of your recommendations and favorites. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Miller, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later!